Good morning from New York City. You thought I was gone forever, but I'm not. I'm here. No promises. My friend Sarah always says, don't make promises you can't keep. And really, recording Dear Constance is, as I've said before, it's something I do for myself. It's really cool to see how many people actually listen. But at this point, I think it's fair to say I'm not trying to build or sell or do anything. This is really about self-expression, and it's my way of processing. I'm a verbal processor, as I've said before. And I think in times like now, where there's tremendous volatility and uncertainty, we are all vulnerable to absorbing the energy that's out in the world, even if it's not on a conscious level. I know I find myself a little bit lost right now. And it may be momentary. It may be just this week. I've had months of a lot of intense activity. I'm going overseas and coming back, and it can take some time for me to find my footing. But this feeling lost, I was thinking about it this morning. I'm like, am I really lost? What is it that is making me feel like I'm not quite sure what's next? And that's when I started reflecting on something I said to a student the other day. I speak with a lot of young people, and I was talking to one of my mentees, and he was sharing with me a lot of his anxiety about the job search. And I said, wait, stop for a minute. I was a mirror to him, and I said, you're doing A, B, C. You're doing really well. And I think you need to be aware that you're absorbing some of the anxiety of the people around you. All of the students are looking for summer internships or jobs right now. And there is some aspect of this collective angst around you that you're absorbing. So be sure you separate what's yours and what's that of other people. And I heard myself saying that, and I'm like, well, that's exactly the situation we're all in right now. There is a lot of uncertainty and volatility in the world. And I think being aware of that is really important. Like I said, I've been struggling, and I'm going back to some of the things that ground me. I'm like, what is it that I do? And I would pose that question to you too. What is it that we do in our own little ways, in our own individual ways? What is it that we do to create stability and certainty in these times of great volatility? I'll share what I've been doing, because it's been about 2 weeks of me kind of feeling like I'm walking in circles. First and foremost, I give myself permission to go with the flow. Like last night, and I'm not exaggerating, I was in bed, lights out at 8:45 p.m. As I often say to my friends, sleep is our best friend. It's healing, and it brings me incredible mental clarity. But it's not just sleep for me. It's about giving myself permission to just do whatever. And when I'm really feeling unproductive and I don't feel like doing anything, it's just much better when I allow it, when I leave myself alone, and when I remember and remind myself that that's not who I am. I'm not a lazy person. I'm generally motivated, but motivation is something that you can't manufacture. The other thing I do is I listen to podcasts, or I seek out the people that I consider wise. And this morning I went and I read something by David White. He talks about conversational leadership. And the first rule, or the first lesson, is stop having the conversation that you've been having with yourself. And it was exactly what I needed to hear this morning, because the conversation I've been having myself is about the fact that I'm walking in circles, that I'm feeling a little bit unsure of what's next. And there's always that risk that I go into a negative spiral. And so reading those words, stop the conversation you're having, was a sort of invitation to think about what is the tape that's going on in my head. The second one I thought was also important, and it's this. It says, cultivate a friendship with the unknown. I talk about the dance with uncertainty and getting comfortable with uncertainty, but thinking of it as the unknown is actually much more beautiful. I consider getting comfortable with uncertainty or with the unknown a master skill. And I've made a conscious effort to put myself in situations where I feel uncomfortable, because I do think it's like a muscle that we can build. And yet, here I find myself a little bit uncomfortable with the unknown right now. I realize you can never really master that. It all comes down to how you manage in uncertain times, how you cope, what you default to when the big unknown and the uncertainties of life feel like they're looming large. In this particular piece, one of the things David Whyte speaks to is cultivating a friendship with silence and not manufacturing conversations in our head without allowing things to play out. So, yeah, stillness, of course, is another best friend, a close cousin to sleep. And as we all know, it can be very challenging to get still with ourselves. Something that I do when I'm feeling ungrounded or unmoored, I go to a neighborhood church that I absolutely love, and it never fails me. There is something about walking into a large space brimming with people I don't know who come together for the exact same thing I go for. It's about feeling the joy and the community and the connectedness when we sing and sit together to listen to the inspirational words of the preacher. I always feel rewarded for having shown up and made the effort to connect and to be part of the community, even if it's for a fleeting hour. It somehow helps me make sense of the world. And it almost never fails to leave me with a slight skip in my step. Anyway, to close, I'll share just one thing that I really loved about the Palm Sunday sermon. The pastor was talking about the power of celebration and why we celebrate. He was talking about closure and transition. For example, when you end a career or when you've gotten your degree, it is acknowledging a transition, and the celebration is part of moving forward and moving on. He talked about celebration for remembering birthdays and remembering anniversaries. Just in general, how celebration brings us together and reminds us of those things we want to see more of. But then he said something that really stuck with me, and I've been thinking about it all week. I think when he was talking about this, he was talking about a death. He said, "I'm happy, I'm sad. I'm happy, I'm sad." And he said, yes, because I'm celebrating what I had and what I experienced. Somehow that was exactly what I needed to hear in that moment. I've recently returned home after many weeks of fun activity, celebration, intimacy with friends, new experiences in places that I had never been. So yeah, part of what I've been feeling is sadness, kind of like I had fallen off of a cliff. And hearing those words was a great reframe for me. I'm happy, I'm sad. I could think of it as sort of a celebration of recent experiences. And yes, it reminds me of what I want more of. So there you have it. That's what's on my mind today. I don't know when I'll have the inspiration, the inclination to show up and record again. But for now, what I can say is I'm glad I showed up. Thank you for being here with me. Until next time, from my heart to yours.